I am Brandon Meisner, the editor of D2Football.com, and I'm sure you've heard by now that the quest for the 2018 National Championship will not end in Kansas City this year. Despite agreeing to host the game for 4 more years, Sporting Kansas City has withdrawn from the agreement, citing the need to renovate their field and leaving the NCAA scrambling to find a new location for the game in 3 months. Now, I didn't think that the game would be in Kansas City forever, but I also didn't think we'd be scrambling to find the location 3 months from now, already a game into the season. So, what's next? Well, the NCAA is accepting two different bids. The first bid is for 2018, the next is for the next 3 years. Before we talk about what I think are the long term solutions, I think we should address 2018 and talk about the best options for this year. It takes a lot of time and effort and coordination to host a championship game. If you think about it, you have to have an airport for the teams to land. You have to have buses for the teams. You have to have hotels for the teams. You have to have hotels for the NCAA personnel. You have to have a place to have press conferences. Obviously, you need an adequate press box for ESPN to broadcast the game. The stadium has to accommodate the crowd. And do the math on the meals. Each travel party has about 75 people. They each will have about 10 to 12 meals while in Kansas City. So that's anywhere from 15 to 1,800 meals while the teams are here. It takes a lot of time to coordinate that. It takes a lot of time to get the sponsors for that. And it's not something that is likely to happen in 3 months. So in my opinion, the best option for 2018 is to have the game as expected in Kansas City, but to have it at one of 3 potential facilities in the area. The first option for a stadium in the Kansas City area, I think, is Arrowhead Stadium. It's the home of the Kansas City Chiefs. The positives: they're an NFL team. They've hosted many TV games. They know what they're doing in that respect. They've hosted D2 games. Many D2 teams in the area have played there, and they are friendly to Division II. It's in the center of the city. I think that's another positive. There wouldn't be a very long drive from where the teams stay to where the game is being held. I think another positive, obviously, is that it's available. The Chiefs play on Thursday. The championship game would be on a Saturday. Obviously, the Chiefs would not worry that their field would get torn up between or for a Saturday game. So I think that's a good location to have that. The only negative I really see with Arrowhead Stadium is the fact that it's a giant stadium. It holds over 75,000 people. And I've seen it with 25,000 people in there, and it still didn't look full. It would look even worse with a typical 7,000 person crowd at a D2 championship. So that would be the one downfall, I think, to having the game at Arrowhead Stadium. But I do think the student athletes would enjoy playing in an NFL stadium. The second option is Walton Stadium on the campus of the University of Central Missouri. It has some good positives. The press box is very nice. It could certainly accommodate ESPN and all the media that's associated with the championship game. The facility is nice as well. It's large. It could hold 12,500 people. And while there have been instances of championship games with more than that, for instance, Shepherd in Northwest Missouri played in Sporting Park in 2015, had 16,000 fans there. It's not the norm. 12,500 would accommodate most crowds at a D2 championship game. The negative is probably the location, though. It is southeast of the metro area, so there would be a little drive there, maybe an hour and 15 minutes or so from city center. The third location that could possibly host the game would be Spratt Stadium on the campus of Missouri Western. It is where the Chiefs have their fall camp. They have a nice indoor facility there, although that doesn't play into this situation at all. The positive is that it is 40 miles from the airport. Somebody could get off a plane, get a rental car, drive right up to St. Joe on I-29 without much problem. It's probably about an hour from city center, so it's roughly the same distance as Central Missouri would be Walton Stadium from city center. The negatives, though, I think might outweigh the positives when it comes to Spratt, but that's probably for each individual to decide. The capacity is only 7,500. That will accommodate most D2 championship crowns, but if a local team were in there, you could really expect way more than 7,500. The other negative, I'm not sure that the press box is really set up to accommodate ESPN in its current configuration. I think the space is there, but I'm not sure the configuration works, although I'm sure ESPN could work around that. So, because of everything I talked about earlier, all of the logistics of hosting the championship game, I think the ideal situation for 2018 would be to host it in one of those three facilities and have the teams come into Kansas City as normal for this year. Now, what should happen long term? That's a completely different story. Before we talk about the best options long term, I think it's important to talk about the things that I don't think will work. Some people have mentioned Orlando, Florida, and Las Vegas as possible destination places, quote unquote. I don't know that that really works for Division II fans, and here's why. A semifinal game gets over at 3 o'clock local time on a Saturday. Is that enough time to plan? If you're not going to fly, is that enough time to plan a drive? Is that enough time to ask for time off from your boss, to get time off from work? I don't think so. And I don't think in that situation it matters that there might be some extra things to do around the game. So that's one of the reasons why I don't think having it at a quote unquote destination means much, because most people don't have time to plan a vacation in that shorter period of time. If there were 3 weeks between the semifinals and a championship game, or the same time as it is with the FCS, I think maybe that would be an option. But right now, it's just a matter of as much short-term planning as possible. Some have also suggested that the highest remaining seeded team should host a championship game. But I talked about all the things that are associated with hosting the game, and that would be even harder for a team, with basically 1 week's notice. You don't know who's going to advance in the tournament, in the playoffs. So you don't know who will potentially be doing it, and that's a lot of work for people to do to try to coordinate for a championship game that may or may not exist. It's much easier to do when you know that the game would exist. In addition, there might not even be adequate hotel facilities at the host of the remaining highest seed. It could be from a school in a very small town with the closest hotel facilities being 2 hours away. Obviously, that's theoretical, and we don't know, but it just shows that it needs to be at a place that knows it's going to have it and can plan on having it, and ideally needs years to plan those kind of things. So what are the criteria that I think of for the best location in the future? I think it needs to be in the center part of the country, probably farther south than north, and I think it needs to have an airport that's accessible. In the past, Florence didn't have a big hub and had a very small airport, but at least there was an airport there to have the teams land, and if you could afford it, somebody could fly in there. So I think that it's important to have the airport nearby, and obviously it's important to have a facility that can accommodate the game, both enough fans and the media. I think there are 3 locations that would probably work very well in the future. But they might not even be ready now. But here we go with those 3 locations. Pensacola, Florida. It's the home of the University of West Florida. You guys know that they advanced to the national championship game last year. I think Pensacola is a great location for it, but there's a big problem in that they only have a 5,000-seat stadium, and that stadium is actually configured for baseball first. They bring in temporary bleachers to set up on one side for their home games, which is fine for their home games, probably not for a national championship game. But if they were to ever get their own stadium or find an adequate stadium, I think they would be a tremendous location. In spite of the fact that the airport is not like a regional hub or anything like that, but they would have probably good weather, and it is central, very south, but it is central. The second location is one that I've always thought would work, and that is the University of Central Oklahoma, located in Edmond, which is a northern suburb of Oklahoma City. Obviously, they have a good airport there. I think the weather would be good. Most of the time, it's far enough south that you're not going to get snow like you had during the 2016 National Championship. It does have a good airport, like I said, and the facilities there at UCO are very nice, so they would be adequate for hosting the championship game. The third location, I think, has two potential host destinations, and that would be the Dallas, Texas, Frisco, Texas area. Obviously, Toyota Stadium already hosts the FCS Championship. They've done a tremendous job with that. The facility is another soccer stadium like Sporting Kansas City has. Not as nice, but still very nice and very adequate, and would do a wonderful job with the D2 game as well. There would be 2 weeks between the D2 championship and the FCS championship, so any damage that might have been done to the field wouldn't affect the FCS game, which I'm sure is important to them. The second location, and the location that I think is number one on my list right now, and I think it would be nice if this happened, would be the Ford Center, and it's where the Dallas Cowboys practice. It's a beautiful 12,000 seat facility. It is indoors. It's an indoor dome stadium. It has adequate press boxes on two sides of the stadium, so you could have enough room for coaches, media, ESPN, etc. Obviously, since it's a dome, weather's not going to be a problem, although I don't think weather would really ever be a problem in Dallas for the most part, but you never know. There has been snow in Florence before. It's probably a little south and west of ideal, but it still fits in the range that I think works well. And obviously, Dallas is a major airport hub, and it has two big airports. So flights to Dallas on a last-minute basis could be easily accessible for those who could afford it. Like I said, it's a little south, and I do prefer that all the destination be drivable for most D2 fans because of the short time, and not everybody can afford the plane tickets at a last minute like that. But still, I think the Ford Center in Dallas would probably be the ideal location for the D2 championship game moving forward. And for all those reasons, I hope the LSC coordinates with the Cowboys and tries to make that happen. So, thanks as always for watching and supporting D2Football.com. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, keep an eye out for more video content in the future. If you are able to and have the desire, check the description for how you can help us cover Division II football better. And remember, you can always join the discussion on the message board where the best fans in Division II hang out. We are the center of the D2 football world. Thanks for watching. I'm Brandon Meisner.